Okay, so in this training, we are going to be going through exercise tempo. Okay, the explanation of tempo, why it's important, and how it's going to help you to get the absolute most out of the time that you're spending in the gym. Okay, so every exercise that you have in the program is going to have a tempo related to it. Okay, and that tempo is written in four numbers. So it is the eccentric would be the first number, or the lowering phase of the movement, the pause at the end of the lowering phase, the concentric or the lifting part of the movement, and then the pause at the end of the lifting part of the movement. Okay. So for example, a 3-1-1-0 would be meaning lowering the weight for 3 seconds, a 1 second pause at the bottom, 1 second to lift the weight, and then no rest at the top. So for something like a squat, you'd be lowering for 3 seconds, 1 second pause in the hole, 1 second to come up, like forceful with a bit of intent, aggressive. The concentric should always be a bit more aggressive, and the eccentric should always be a bit more controlled. For 99% of the time, that's going to be the case. And then generally speaking, no rest at the top just helps us to keep in a good rhythm for the actual exercise itself as well. And this is how it looks in the app. So you'll see these numbers down here, and that's how they would relate. So, and these are two good examples because they're different exercises, okay, in terms of how it's written. So the numbers always mean the same thing, okay. So the first number is always the eccentric. It's always the lowering part. The second number is always the pause at the end of the lowering phase. The third number is always the lifting phase, and the fourth number is always the pause at the end of the lifting phase. Now, a dumbbell bench press, starts with the lowering phase, but a seated dumbbell lateral raise would start with the concentric. The first part is the lifting part of the movement. The first part is lifting your arm away from your body, but the numbers, so it's still 3 seconds to lower, a 1 second pause at the bottom, 1 second to lift, and then a 1 second pause in that top position, in that squeezed position or contracted position. For the dumbbell press, that would be 3 seconds to lower the dumbbells, 1 second to pause at the bottom, 1 second to press, and then 1 second to reset at the top. And these are the kind of two tempos that you're going to typically see: a 3-1-1-0 or a 4-1-1-0. There might be a 3-1-1-1 where we'd have like a 1 second to pause, like a 1 second squeeze in that shortened position. Sometimes that might be there, but generally speaking, that's how it's going to be. And then this is very easy because in terms of how long a training session is going to take you, well, I know it's 5 seconds per repetition, and if I've prescribed you between 8 and 10 reps, I'll just calculate that as 10 reps. So I'm going to calculate that as 50 seconds time under tension, plus then the rest period, and then however many sets. So I know how long it's going to take, or it should take you to do each part of the program, and therefore I can program it in a way that I go, that's a 45-minute program, because outside of your general warm-up, but that's going to be a 45-minute program. So that's why the tempos are there. That's why the rest periods are there, to be adhered to fit. If you're like, I've only got half an hour available, I will program it in a way that it is specifically to what you've asked for or what you're looking for in terms of time pressures. Okay, and this should keep you honest as well, because it's so easy to get caught flicking on our phones and all that type of stuff in the gym. I get it, what I mean. I can be bad for it myself at times, but this should keep us honest, if you're using the timer for the rest periods and stuff like that in the app as well. Again, three examples: bench press and goblet squat are going to be the same. 3 seconds to lower the bar, 1 second pause on the chest, press up in 1 second, and then no rest at the top. Goblet squat, 4 seconds to lower, a 1 second pause at the bottom, 1 second to stand back up, and then no pause at the top, straight back into your 4 second lowering again, okay? And then the lat pull down, we're going to start with because the bar's up here, so we start with the 1 second pull, and then 1 second squeeze at the bottom, squeezed in that contracted position, then 3 seconds to lower the bar, and then 1 second paused in that stretch position with our hands above our head. Okay. Now, why is this important? It standardizes form. So how can I control form unless I'm standing there watching you for every single session. Even in person, I can't watch you for every single session. So it standardizes what you should be doing. If you follow the tempo strictly, you can't cheat. You can't cheat and you can't hurt yourself if you follow the tempos correctly, okay? And it will enhance the mind muscle connection, because if you slow it down, you can be more deliberate about the movement. It's not about, right, I've got 10 reps, I just need to get through these 10 reps and get it over and done with. That's not a good relationship with the exercise. We're looking for a stimulus for this exercise. We're not just looking to go in and get it done. We're looking to get something from the movement. So trying to be as efficient as possible and focus on using like the kind of target muscles. If you slow it down, you can catch yourself on a lot quicker using the target muscles, completing the exercise in the manner that it's intended. Again, injury prevention is a massive one. You won't hurt yourself if you use this tempo, because if you slow it down, and the weight's too heavy on the bar, you'll know the weight's too heavy because you won't be able to complete the exercise, and you'll go, shit, I need to be honest with myself, and I'm not strong enough to lift that amount of weight, and I'm going to have to put some less load on the bar as well, okay? And that's going to make sure that injury prevention is kind of ticked off. All right, there's you get nothing from being a hero. And do you know what? 90 to 95% of people I see in the gym could, probably 99% of people could improve. 90 to 95% of people who I see could vastly improve their technique just by implementing a strict exercise tempo. Now, lastly, the exercise efficiency standpoint, okay? Now, let's talk about a repetition and a percentage, okay? So there's 100% available from a repetition, okay? There's 100%. So 50% of that would be the lowering part of the movement, and the other 50% is the lifting part of the movement, okay? So let's talk this in practical terms, what we see in the gym typically. Someone is doing a bench press, they drop the bar on their chest and just allow it to bounce off their chest, and then they catch it halfway up, and then they press it that last little bit. Okay, so what was available? 100%. What did they get? They dropped the bar on their chest, so that 50% is wiped out. They got nothing from that, okay? They then bounced off their chest and used momentum to get out of the hardest part of the movement. So they might have lost another 20% there, just to put some rough numbers on it. And then they caught it halfway up, and then just pressed it that last little piece of the movement. So of a repetition that had 100% available, this person got 30%. Okay, that's a poor return on investment. From 100% available, you got 30%. If that was financially or in another facet of life, and you got a 30% return when was 100% available, you should be raging about that, because that is pretty poor. Now, two people standing side by side with the same weight on the bar, one person could get 100%, they could lower under control, pause in that stretch position, pause in that difficult position where it's hardest, use no momentum, use just the muscles that they're trying to train to get out of that difficult position, and then press up. So both of these people on paper would do 10 reps for 60 kilos, but in terms of the stimulus that each of these individuals has gotten from that exercise would be a monumental difference. Okay, I cannot highlight this enough. Lifting weights is a skill, okay? It's a skill that you have to develop, and like everything, you have to meet yourself where you're at and be realistic with where you're at. And then, if in doubt, slow it down, allow yourself time to get better, keep yourself honest with what you're doing, and honestly, you will get the difference in terms of results which you'll get for the time that you're already investing. You're already there, you're already going to the gym. Why would you not try and get the absolute most out of the time that you're investing in yourself? And it takes no more effort, or no more time. It will take more effort, relatively speaking. It will be more difficult, but at the end of the day, it's supposed to be difficult. We're trying to get something. It's a relative difficultness, we're trying to expose ourselves to that difficulty. So then our body adapts to that stimulus, becomes stronger, lays down muscle mass, lays down active tissue, etc. as well, so that we are ultimately building a stronger version of ourselves. And if you're trying to lay on muscle mass, then you know you're going to start to build some muscle mass as well. So it is crucial that we follow this correctly, and we utilize this to the best of our ability, because it will have a huge compounding effect on the results that you get from the time that you're investing in yourself.